Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. Next here on this segment, we're going to be dealing with an email from one of our listeners. But before we go on, we want to say welcome for joining us this Sunday morning. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios, and we're brought to you this hour by the fine folks at Extreme Exteriors. And coming up later in the show, too, you don't want to miss this. There's homeowners who are griping over the fact that they say their homeowners association is making them pay for damages at the property. Imagine that. I don't know what it was that they were thinking, that everything was going to be taken care of. But we're going to talk about that and see what it was that those folks were thinking. I think that's out in Arizona. A little bit later, too, we're going to be dealing with the folks in Nevada. You know, there's that whole deal, Tony, with the Office of the Ombudsman, and then there's that special commission for common interest communities.
We've had many stories out of Nevada, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
With all this stuff going on out there.
And people still, with everything that they continue to tweak and try to change, nobody's ever
with the
happy.
Legislation. They always want to go to the legislature and say, do this, do that,
and
fix
they get
this,
it done.
Fix
and
then it all blows up.
And they're still unhappy.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about that as well. But let's go on with this email that came from a listener. And Tony, do you want to read it for our listeners?
Sure, I will. Dear Gene and Tony, we have an Onsite employee who did not want to take their vacation last year. We put in writing to all our staff that they must take all of their vacation each year. This year, we sent a memo to each of them requesting vacation dates. The caretakers have taken all their vacation, but the manager still has not given firm dates. Now, you said, Gene, earlier that this was a condo association that has on-site personnel. Okay. The manager's been told, use it or lose it. He finally has asked to take 1 week in December, and the board agreed to extend the vacation period to the first week of December. We want to be flexible and work with him, but any later than the first week of December is too snow risky, we feel, for anyone to take a vacation. Why would someone be so vacation averse? Except if he just wants to collect the money. What fascinates me is that he's always saying he has no money and that his credit cards are maxed out. He pays no rent or utilities. That's a big chunk of monthly expense for most people. If I was him, I'd be putting away an amount every month that represents that savings. I guess we think differently. End of story.
End of story.
I was confused by this story when I first read it, Gene, because I couldn't really find the question in this story, what this person was asking about.
I don't think there is a question. I think it is probably just a gripe.
I see.
Maybe a cathartic thing, just getting something off. But I think they are just sharing with us their particular situation, wanting us to comment on what we think.
Okay, all right.
We're good at doing that.
But you know what? We almost always have an opinion, I've noticed.
Almost always.
The first thing that struck me in the first paragraph, or the first two paragraphs, he pretty much says that they talked about the vacations with this manager. They told him what their rules were and that they worked something out. They worked out an agreement with him.
Well, you know, I agree. I think a couple things that I thought was a positive here was they showed signs of being very proactive. They said that they put in writing to all staff that they must take a vacation. So they're setting the protocol, okay?
Yeah.
And besides that, they also sent a memo later asking them, hey, by the way, when are you going to take vacation, and encouraging them to come in with that. Those are positive things.
Absolutely. That's actually really right on the ball, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. No issues there at all.
And then they were willing to be flexible when this manager came and missed whatever his vacation deadline was and said, can I please take a week in December? And their reasoning, I think, is absolutely valid. If they live in a snow state, I always tell people, if you're in your property management, you take your vacation in September, October, November, or March, April, and May, because winter is too busy with snow and summer's too busy with everything else. In Minnesota, you have to do everything else in the summer.
Yes, and so the fact that an employer is asking for there to be some guidelines with when someone can take vacation,
seasonal,
that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
I don't think that is out of the ordinary or something that's too burdensome for an employee.
But this is when it gets really interesting, is when he starts throwing in his personal opinions about this guy's finances.
They kind of went overboard there.
Yeah.
The first part, I guess, that I wanted to address for our listeners here was a statement that this person made kind of halfway through their email here. They said that they told this on-site manager that if you don't use your vacation, you've been told to use it or lose it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are probably a number of people who probably can think of in the employee manual where they work, that there is some language in there that says vacation must be used by such and such a time, and if not, it will be lost.
Yep, that's a common stipulation, because businesses are trying to plan their workload, correct? And they're trying to plan their staffing, and it gets kind of unwieldy if people start amassing weeks and weeks and weeks of vacation.
Oh yes, because you have anybody in any position, because companies have to run lean. If someone kind of put together 3 months of vacation,
right,
it would be you just wouldn't be able to continue on in a business with someone gone for a 3-month block of time,
right,
even though they've earned it. So you want to try and encourage them to use it throughout. The other idea here, too, is I think that employers were wanting to set some sort of standard saying, you know what, most businesses are small businesses. Cash flow is an important issue for every business. Yep. And if you owe someone 6 months worth of vacation and then they quit, that's a big chunk of money to come up now and pay someone. So they're saying, hey, we want you to use it, and to encourage it to be on your shoulders.
Yep.
You use it or you lose it.
Yep.
That's been standard. However, with that all being said, the federal law changed a couple years ago.
The feds control this, huh?
Yes, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago now, anyway. And the idea of using it or losing it is something that does not hold any water with the federal government anymore. So you can't do that, even if it's been in your employee's manual.
So you're saying that the employer cannot say use it or lose it.
That's right.
Whatever you accrue is yours.
Even if it's been something that you both signed ahead of time with the employee's manual ahead of time.
Well, that's typical of legislation, isn't it?
Yes.
That it ignores all previous agreements and contracts.
And so that's an important issue. So listener, when you say use it or lose it, no, you can't. What we do at New Concepts now is if someone hasn't used it by a certain amount of time, we will now say we will begin to automatically direct your vacation. And so instead of you saying, I'm going to take a week here, we'll say you'll take 2 days here, and then this next week, 2 days here.
I see.
And so the employer can still direct so that the employee can use up their vacation time. Mm-hmm. That's helpful to know, but you can't say use it or lose it.
Okay, and that makes sense then for the employer to have to get some kind of control over the situation, so that they're not stuck with a big vacation bill.
Oh, exactly.
Unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm. And then, but let's talk for a moment about the next item here, and that is this is the part, this last paragraph, I guess, is just sort of personal opinion here of the individual, and I think it kind of, to me, does it sound like sour grapes to you? Like this person?
It just sounds judgmental. It sounds like dad. I'm sorry to say that to all you dads, or mom, perhaps. It sounds very parental. It sounds very patronizing, I guess. Yeah,
it is really not the place of the employer to start saying that, we pay you too much. Boy, what do you do with all your money?
You don't pay rent.
You don't know another person's situation.
That's right. And this guy's judging the heck out of this employee, saying he doesn't pay rent, he doesn't pay utilities. Why isn't he saving that money? How come his credit cards are maxed out? How come he never has any money? You can have your personal opinion, but if you're the employer, you can't always voice your personal opinion.
Yeah,
right.
You need to keep it to yourself because number one, you're going to, I think, just offend a good employee.
That's the least of the problems, I would say.
Yeah.
And you really don't know what's going on in that person's life. You cannot judge what's going on in another person's life by how they look on the outside. I don't care what you say or what you see. You really don't know what's going on in that person's life.
Is this person taking care of elderly parents? Is this person being a good sort and they had a business that went out of business and they're still making good on past debts?
Right. Are they paying child support?
Yes. There could be all kinds of things that you just don't know here. And so you shouldn't be speaking out of school.
And if you're the employer, you've got another reason to keep your personal opinions to yourself in situations like this because you're risking your business or you're risking your association.
Yeah, I think so. One last thing that I'd like to say about this before we move on here too, and that is we don't have any idea here whether this particular association is run by a professional management firm. Because if it is, then there are a couple of questions and issues that come to bear there as well. And I'd like to cover those, but let's do that after this break. We're going to take a quick break right now. You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280 The Patriot. We'll be back after these messages.